Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It is a great pleasure to have you all here again on this Sunday, not so cold Sunday today. We have much better weather today outside, and inside it's even better because we have like all of you here, so it's much warmer. Thank you all for being here with us today online through Facebook Live and our new YouTube channel. Today we have a lecture from Joyce on the theme Spiritist Living. It's going to be very similar to, not similar, but it will be aligned to what we learned this Wednesday, so it's really nice. I want to hear what she has to tell us. And before the lecture, I will invite Teresa to do the initial reading and prayer.
From the book Happy Life by Divaldo Pereira Franco by the Spirit of Joana de Angelis. If the purpose of your words is not to help, do not use them to criticize. There are two types of behavior: the behavior of those who act and that of those who get up on a soapbox and point out mistakes, criticizing and tormenting other people. Do as much as you can without expecting either kudos or brickbats. Join those who work and speak with the higher objective of being useful. If those who say they know how to do things would stop giving their opinions and act, the world would be a very different place. So let us all now here open our hearts and our minds and connect with the God, our Creator. Connect with His love and His mercy. And connect with the light that comes from Jesus, our Master, and to all the good spirits here working on His behalf. And let's ask that it can bring us enlightenment, and then the lessons that we're going to be learning today can help us a little bit on our inner transformation. May also ask the good spirits here present that may shine your light over Joyce so she can deliver the lecture that we all need, and so be it. Thank you, Joyce. It's all yours.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So always a pleasure to be here today and share a few ideas with you. So today I'm going to be talking about Spiritist Living. And my talk is actually an invitation for all of you to reflect about the question, am I really a Spiritist? So I know that some of you maybe be presented to Spiritism for the first time today, or is just starting to learn about Spiritism, but some of you here has been in the Spiritist practice for many years, or maybe more than one generation. Maybe you were born in a house, in a Spiritist house already, Spiritist family already, so you've been raised with this doctrine in your head and everything, but today you're gonna see with just a few slides, I invite you to that reflection, to really try to ask yourself that question, am I really a Spiritist? Because you're gonna see by my talk today that call yourself a Spiritist is not just because you know Kardec or because you read all the books, even the 5 basic books, or the books of André Luiz, or any other Spiritist romance. You cannot call yourself a Spiritist just because you find interesting the idea of reincarnation or the life in another plan, or about eternal life, or about Spiritist, or just because you find so interesting the fact that we can communicate with other spirits, right? So that doesn't make you a Spiritist. Of course, it's important to know that. It's important to learn and to read and to understand. But being a spiritist is a little another step forward to that. It's actually the action, what you really do with that knowledge. What are your attitudes toward life? What we do with your own choices, and what do you do to help the others? So, and those are the ideas that we're going to discuss today. So, in last week, Teresa told us about, not last week because it was the planning day, but the week before. Teresa told us about the Spiritism as the promised consoler. So that's I guess it's the main understanding about when you try to understand what is Spiritism, is exactly that, the promised consoler. And once you start to learn about it, you start to understand why is actually the promised consoler, because it gives us the key to understand all the Jesus teachings, right? Because at the time that Jesus came, all his teachings were in some way in parables or kind of different ways to say things, because at that time we were not evolved enough to really understand the message. So Spiritism came to us to really kind of open that book and really explain what exactly Jesus was trying to tell us. And once we fully understand that, we see the light. We really kind of give us a chance to do that transformation. So many of us come to a Spiritist house or start to learn by Spiritism or start to open the first book, Spiritist book, because either because you are curious, and I can see myself on that because I was raised in the Catholicism, in a Catholic family. And no one really told me about Spiritism, but I had friends that were Spiritists, and I always found interesting the way they see life, the way they face challenges in life. And so I was always curious, what is this about? How come that person seems to me that they don't suffer as much as I do in a similar situation, right? So many of us come to Spiritism because of that. Some of us because we are suffering a situation or pain, loss of a child, loss of a very close family member or friend, or difficulties in life in general, that all of us, I'm pretty sure none of us here can raise our hand and say that our life is just a paradise, right? Because that is just not possible. So there are different reasons that brought us to the Spiritism. And then we start to discover, we start to learn, we start to understand what is this about, what is the message behind, and we start to learn that Spiritism is not just the communication with the spirits. And then most of us kind of stop here, right? We just find, this is so interesting. And we even start to spread the word and start to talk about this to the others and start to give lectures and even start to work in a Spiritist house, helping to keep the work going and so on. These two last steps here, many of us are not able to do, which is the living. The Spiritist living exactly what you spread, what you believe, and then by living that, you start the process of your own inner transformation. And that's the purpose of the Spiritism. It's not only to go up to here, but also live and transform yourself and maybe become a better person. And that way you're gonna kind of transform all the world around you, all the environment around you. And there are, when we learn about Spiritism, we learn about all those topics: prayer and service, teaching and example, love and construction, faith and enlightenment, peace and work, renewal and improvement. So all these come together, right? And in the book, all my lecture, I mean 90% of it probably, is based on this book, Caminho Espírita, that is not translated to English. So different chapters of this book is on my lecture, and I invite you to read about this book. It's different. Each chapter is a different message. It's a book from Emmanuel, from Chico Xavier through Emmanuel, and in English would be Spiritist Pathway, something around that. So it says, let us reflect on the subject, because if the Spiritist doctrine induces us to believe in immortality, such conviction worths little without action that gives it coherence. In other words, doesn't make a lot of sense just believing the immortality. If you don't really put action on those thoughts and on what you learn in the Spiritism, everything is kind of meaningless. So that's the reflection that I want you to have today. And then you think, oh, okay, but what is the recipe? How can I really be a Spiritist, right? And one of the chapter 16, give us that message. Get up in the morning and bless life. Spread the presence of good around. Listen quietly to the time. Give a friendly word. Help by talking. And when they say he helping by talking, and helping by a good talking, right? Like pay attention to what the message you are spreading. You can really help by your talking, but if you are really conscious about that. Let your heart to serve without questions. Do more than your duty in the task you are in. Very few of us does that, right? We think that our duty is already more than enough. But actually, we are always invited to do a little bit more than that in any situation. At home, as a husband or a wife, as a mother or a father, as a brother or sister, at work, you can always do a little bit more to help. Endure the ongoing trials without revolt. I would say that most of us have a real trouble with that, right? We always stand, at least initially for a few seconds, to have moments of revolt and kind of question, why this is happening with me? And because we have a tendency to see ourselves always as a victim. And we're gonna kind of reflect today about that and see that actually victim never exist. We are never victims, right? Everything that we face is kind of a consequence of our own choice in this life or previous lives. Erase discord and liquidate problems. Study and understand. Discern and elevate. Render worship to the truth among blessings of love. See the right of others and respect all of them. Really respect all of them. Really see your neighbor as someone that needs some respect, regardless of what they are doing. Be faithful to work and forget about offenses. To love fraternally all creatures. To light each night the stars of peace in the shelter of your conscience with prayers of joy. This is the ideal route in the constant journey of a Spiritist. So as you can see here, it's not easy, right? And this message clearly say, like in no place here, it says only read the books and learn about all what Kardec said, or just read all 400 plus books of Chico Xavier. None of this message said that, right? It really said action, act, go and do your job. That is the true Spiritist, and it's not easy for sure, but that's the invitation for today. That is the reflection that we need today. So regardless of the experience you face in life, be convinced that God is with you in all pathway. And I tend to say to friends that come to me struggling to make choices, right? Because we always face situations in life that we need to make a choice. Many of us here are from Brazil, and at some point in life we had that decision, move or not to move to another country. And then some of us came to Canada with a legal status, like a job or something already in place. But some of us came with nothing, came just kind of pursuing a dream, and got here and faced all the challenges, because the idea of a perfect place, we realized that doesn't exist. So although here in Canada we have many things that is considered for us as positive in a society, we also face many, many challenges, and many real challenges by moving and start a new transition, a new in a different country. It's not easy. We all know that. And many times, many of us struggle with that. Oh, should I go back to Brazil? Should I stay here? What I do? Or choices, or questions at work, maybe 2 offers of work, which one I'm gonna choose? Should I marry or shouldn't I not get married? Or should I have kids or don't have kids? When is the perfect time to have kids? I want to have kids, but I don't know now. It's very difficult because this and this and that. So all the time we are facing those questions, right? What to do. And when I was living in New York, I lived there for about a year when my husband was doing a postdoc fellowship there. And I used to go very often to trails. There are many trails about an hour away from New York. We cannot see here very well, but this is one picture of one trail. And for those here who loves nature, being in contact with nature and love trails, we will understand what I mean. In many, many situations when we're doing a trail, we got to a point that we need to choose right or left, right? They are different. And most of the trails, they have signals, right? That we see there's a red pathway or a blue. There are different ways to signals. And we can see, oh, with this pathway, I will get to the top in about 5 kilometers. And this other one, I will need to walk about 10, 15 kilometers. And then our initial thought is, I go for the 5 kilometers because it'll be fast and I'll get there faster. But most of the time, the 5 kilometers has many obstacles, many rocks or things that we need to climb sometime, that we struggle more, that are more difficult. Most of the times it's not for no reason that we have another one that is a lot longer, but usually it's easier for those who has any trouble physically or any difficulty, but also want to get to the top. So you need to walk a little bit more, but you're gonna face less challenges during that. And when I was doing my trails, I always had that reflection and that comparison with life because it's so similar. And I remember I got that picture because at that day I was with Marco and a very close friend from a Spiritist house that we used to go in New York. And we were doing that dynamic during the trail, thinking like comparing that with our life and thinking, see, that's exactly what we face in life. We have always different choices, different ways. All of them is gonna get to the end that we aim for. But if we choose certain pathway, it might be more painful than the others. But if we choose the other one, it's gonna take longer, but you're gonna get there. But it's gonna be less painful. So what are the things? So in other words, we are kind of getting to the conclusion that there is no wrong choice. And that's exactly life. If you really understand the Spiritism and get the idea within yourself, you're gonna see that there will never a wrong choice, and that will really give you the consolation that you need and relieve that guilty of or that scary feeling of making a wrong choice. Because if you really think, okay, regardless what I choose, that will be the right choice, because my mind will be on that mode. I know that might be more painful, but I know that God is with me in all pathway. There is no choice that you're going to choose that God is going to tell you, okay, you made the wrong choice, bye-bye, go by yourself on that pathway, I will not join you. It was your mistake, so see you later. So we don't have that, right? So that's the real consolation. Obviously, might be more painful, and that's exactly our journey as immortal spiritists. We know that we are all, our destiny will all be a perfect spirit. That is the truth. There is no question about that. We will all get there. Some of us is gonna need like thousands and thousands of incarnations. Some is gonna need maybe half of that, but we will all get that. We will all get to that point. So I think once we understand that, that's kind of also help us to face the challenges and help us to be a little easier with ourselves, to forgive ourselves and our own mistakes, and kind of reset us to a mode that, okay, I will restart and I will do better next time. So no one receives life's talent to hide them in dust or rust. And that's what's said by Emmanuel in the same book that I mentioned. So think about that. All of us here has some talent, and that talent was given to you not by a chance. There is a purpose behind that. Trust, follow, work, and build for the good. And rest, assured that in order to achieve happiness, if you do your duty, God does the rest. But remember, you need to do your duty, right? You cannot just stay on your couch and think that a job opportunity will just fall from the sky, right? You need to do your job. If you want a job opportunity, and you, especially for those that come from Brazil or any other country, like let's say those that decided to leave your own country to seek for another opportunity or to pursue certain types of dreams outside, we know that to get there, you really need to work a lot. Things will not fall just by crossing your arms, right? And that is very common for people who leave your own country, because sometimes you have everything in your own country. You have a title, you have a profession, you are respected, and then once you get to a different place, all those titles, respect, and everything are in some way kind of meaningless. You need to start your job from zero to show your potentials, right? I can tell that by my own example, like by being a physician from Brazil and moving to another country. I got here, none of us didn't care that I had a medical degree. You need to show, you need to start from zero and do all the exams and kind of go through a few years until you got something. And that is for everyone, for any profession, right? So, but the fact, if I tell myself that, okay, it's challenging, it's difficult, but God is with me all the time, I do my job and I will get it, you know that things will happen. Because just by having that mode, that thinking mode on your head, kind of gives you the energy to face all the challenges that come to you. And then another chapter tells about the Spiritist recipe to face all the situations in life. So if you're having dark thinking, try to a few instants of prayer. Try to meditate. Like always watch what you are thinking. Always kind of monitor yourself. Do not allow that dark thinking to direct all your actions. Irritation, silence for at least half an hour. That actually helps you to prevent you to make a lot of mistakes. Because how many times we act based on our irritation, and then later on we regret, right? About things we say, decisions we make, because we were driven by irritation. So if you give yourself some moment, and even to stay alone and pray, that can help you to kind of rethink and see the things in different perspective, not only driven by your own selfishness. Sadness, extend voluntarily the usual work quota, like work more and try to do more things to help others. Do I encourage destructive criticism? Let us look at our own weakness. And that is very important. And I'm trying to do that exercise every time that I see someone in, like, our first action is always to criticize, right? When we see someone doing something different. But if we start to do this reflection, we're gonna see that most of the things that we criticize are weakness that we have. And that's why it calls our attention right away. That's why we kind of jump and criticize at the first step. And any job is not easy. I used to think about, because all of us, as those who are here that are Brazilians, how many of us are criticizing a lot the politics and the corruption in Brazil? And sometimes I ask myself, oh my God, it's better, okay, not that it's wrong to criticize, because we see lots of wrong things that they are doing, but truly inside yourself, do that own reflection. If you were there with all that power and money and opportunity around you, how many here are really certain that would not do the same mistake? I don't know. I don't put my hand on fire and kind of say, I'll never do that. I don't think I'm that strong. So we need to really think, because it's easy for you to kind of flip and kind of, oh no, but just a little bit here. If I take a little bit of, no one's gonna realize. Of course, the problem in Brazil is that they decide to take billions, right? Not only a few thousands, but anyways, it's just for us to do that reflection. Every time you criticize, try to put yourselves on those shoes, and kind of think how I would act if I were in the same situation. I might be doing the same mistake. So if you have a desire to criticize the other, give a look inside yourselves. Loneliness, try to help someone who may be more alone. Boredom, visit a hospital so you can measure your own advantages. And that, when I was reading that, I see myself a lot on that sentence, because by being a physician, and I'm anesthesiologist, and I do lots of pediatric anesthesia. And very recent, my son had a health problem. He was diagnosed with epilepsy, and it was the hardest time of my life, because it was very hard to control. And I remember me in the hospital as a patient, as a mom of a patient, not as a physician, and struggling and crying and seeing, oh my God, this is never controlled, and so on and so on. And then the day after, I was in the hospital in a different position as a physician, and providing anesthesia for kids that were a lot more complicated than my son, like in situations that we cannot even imagine. And then that helped me to kind of see, look at you, like every day in my work is kind of a learning experience in that perspective, because you complain so much. There are a lot of things worse than that, and sometimes we need that shake, because we always tend to think that whatever situation that we are facing are the worst that ever. We always see that to ourselves as the poorest victim in any situation, right? So, and that's why also, when a friend comes to me complaining a lot, I invite them to do some voluntary work in some institutions, or helping children, helping elderly, helping drug addicts. You're going to see that there are so many people facing a lot harder situation than what you are facing, and you kind of see that what you are facing is minimal compared to what other people face in life. So this really helps us to do that reflection. Offense, forgive and serve more broadly. Resentment, forget all evil. Failure, go back to good work and start again. And that is also very important advice, especially for us who decided to start a new life in a different country. Failure is something that happens quite often. And I tend not to like that word failure, because I never think that a failure is a real failure. I think it's actually an opportunity for you to grow, an opportunity for you to go back, rethink what you've done, and do it again. It's like reincarnation, right? But in one life. So you kind of have the opportunity to redo it. Never think that a failure is the end, the same way that never think that death is the end, right? So it is possible to identify the Spiritist as a companion of Jesus Christ in the human experience, who does not always do what he wants, but constantly does what he must do. So if you want to recognize a Spiritist, that's exactly what it is. And that's exactly what we should be if you want to consider ourselves as a Spiritist. We know that in some situations, I will have to do something that is not exactly what I want, because we are always attracted to do something easier or something driven by our selfishness. But by learning Spiritism, it will give us the idea of what is the right thing to do. And then I will do those things instead of exactly what I want, right? And always following Jesus' teachings. Without the Spiritist idea, we couldn't achieve the rational faith, which lead us to the pathway of truth and freedom. However, we must recognize that the school of goodness is meaningless without the living in the good. Planning without action is meaningless. So that is exactly the message that I'm trying to spread to you today, is that it's important to understand and to learn the Spiritist idea and the Spiritist concept, but that without action will be meaningless, will not help you to progress, will not help you to do your inner transformation if you don't bring that concept to your own life. So think about it. Why are you here today? And we say here is not here in Canada, it's here in a Spiritist house. Why are you having the opportunity to learn this doctrine? Why are you having the opportunity to learn those messages? It's not by a chance. It's because there is something for you. And I can guarantee it's not only for you. It's, because Spiritism is not selfish. So it's not only for your own progress. It's for you to act, and by acting and helping your inner transformation, you are for sure helping all the others around you, because your actions and your examples will get to the others around you, and will help the others to see life in the same way as you are seeing. So, and then it was interesting because I was reading and going through the chapters, and I said, okay, I think I'm in the right pathway. I'm thinking I'm trying to be a good Spiritist. And then I read this chapter and said, oh my God, I think I need a lot of work to do. So this chapter is telling about, for you to reflect about if you are really doing a Spiritist practice. So if you already have found in the service the source of peace, prevented the intrusion of discouragement at the head of good work, and keep working. If you already have listened to in comprehension and proceed with understanding, I mean, I don't do that all the time, of course. if you already have stopped the impulse of anger, if you already had kept patience in all trials, this is so hard. If you already have put yourself in the place of the other in the difficult times, if you already have perceived that their pains are equal to the pains if actually your pains, if you already have perceived your pains are equal to the pains of the neighbor, and if you already have helped without expecting the request for help, this is also so hard. If you already have discerned between conscience and convenience and decided to follow the conscience no matter how rough the path is indicated, and finally, if you already have trusted without fainting in the victory of good even when all seems under the dominion of evil, so be assured that your Spiritist practice is reaching a high level of elevation. So this is not to discourage you, but I try to tell myself, okay, I will not be discouraged because I'm not doing all those things for sure, but I actually will work. For me, it was kind of incentive to tell me, okay, you have some work to do. And I want to get there. I want to get to the point that my Spiritist practice will reach to a higher level and will be able to help me, but also to enlighten the others. So I will try my best to do a better job than what I'm doing. And we need to think that we that are having the chance to be enlightened by this message, we really need to change the way we see things, change our perspective, change the way we judge and the way we criticize, the way we see things around us, because our eyes are still see life in a very simplistic way, right? We still see, when we ask someone, oh, what is how do you see successful in life? How do you see that a person is successful in life? Many of us will give example of someone who worked hard and was able to build a big company, and that company grow. We see many examples of those who start from very little and were able, by working, to make that company to grow and be a huge success for the society. Okay, that sounds to us as a successful person, but is that really what means success? So we are saying that those who did not have a chance to go to school, who did not have a chance to achieve some titles in life, and those who were not able to be CEOs of great companies and so on. So we are saying that they are not successful. So we are saying that our brothers and sisters from Africa, for example, that has nothing, they are not successful. So that's what the things that we are trying to think. How, and by getting the opportunity to learn about Spiritism, we really need to change the eyes that we see the world and try to see successful not only the material things that we tend to see, but also what we have inside us, right? That is more like what you did with the tools and the opportunities that you had in life. That will be more, will kind of help you to understand more what is success about. And one of the things that also give me consolation is once you start to read about Spiritism, you're going to see that there's not a single spirit that was born as a perfect spirit. That never exists. Even Jesus, I'm sure, we don't know about the beginning, but I'm sure that he was not born as the Jesus we know. I'm sure because that doesn't make sense, right? I'm sure that he went through different process until he reached to that level. And one example of that is when we read about all the books from André Luiz that tells us about how's the world in the Spiritist life. if many of you had a chance to read it, for those who did not, I really invite you to read the 13 books of André Luiz. You're going to see that most of the time, if it's not all the time, the mentors on the book that are giving all the teachings to the André Luiz, most of them had a terrible previous experience with full of mistakes, with full of wrong choices, and now they reach the position of being a mentor, of being a little slightly elevated spirit, and being able to teach. And you're going to see that most of the time the story or that they present in the book, all the problems and all the things that they are presenting in the book were actually a consequence of mistakes of that mentor in the past. And now that mentor is kind of not only teaching, but kind of trying to fix the mistake that he caused in the past for a certain number of other spirits. So that kind of tells us that, okay, you are making wrong choice, you are making mistakes, but there is a light at the end that you can reach that light. So if you allow yourself to really bring Spiritism to your daily life and really live what you believe, you will reach that level. So in this chapter here, it kind of gives us that reflection about what I do with the opportunities I receive, because we have a tendency only to complain, right? As I mentioned initially, only to see ourselves as a victim. So let's think about that. If the patient requests a prescription and does not apply the medication, if the student enrolled in school but does not attend the school, if the traveler needs to get to the station with a ticket in the hand but does not take the train, if the farmer begins the plantation and leaves the work to the account of the wind, do not blame the doctor, do not accuse the teacher, do not reprove the driving, and nor harm the earth. Because that's exactly what we do, right? We always find someone else responsible to our own faults. And sometimes we are exactly that patient, that we receive the prescription, but we don't take the medication. So do not blame the doctor. The doctor here are the Spiritism. You are getting the message. You are getting the teaching. You are presented to the tools to achieve happiness. So do not complain if your life is full of trouble, if your life is full of situations that doesn't make you happy. Probably it's because your own choices and because you are not really applying what you are reading, right? And that's very true. So the same is the Spiritism within us when we know the sacred goals under the direction of Jesus. If we recognize ourselves in need of improvement, if we aspire to the light, if we thirst for peace, if we want happiness, and we do not dispose ourselves to the Spiritist living as an instrument of our own renewal, we should complain only about our own. So do not complain about anyone else. And always think and reflect that anything that you are facing now, it's not a fault of anyone else but yourself. It is a consequence of something you've done, either in this life or in the other life. But don't see that situation as a punishment, because that doesn't exist. That is not a punishment. That is justice, right? Because if you did something, in some way you need to pay for that. Otherwise, what is justice, right? So try to see the problems and the struggles and the challenges you have in life as an opportunity for you to fix that previous situation. We don't know what is that situation about, because most of the time it's not from this life. Sometimes it is, and then it's easy to go there and kind of, or maybe less difficult to go there and kind of fix the problem. But many times it's not from this life. So it's not important to know where that comes from. If you have a problem with your mom, it's not important for you to try to search, oh, what is the cause of that problem? Because also know the answer might be harder for you It's not by no reason that we don't remember previous life. It's because actually it will help you to kind of overcome that and redo it in a different situation. So reincarnation is actually a huge blessing that we have, to kind of not remember anything we did in the past and having a chance to redo it and having a chance to have a different end. And maybe I used to tell friends, okay, think about that, especially friends facing difficult situations with partners and all those things. I try to tell them, okay, pay attention to that, because he or she will come back to you next life. And sometimes not as a partner, because as a partner you can kind of say bye-bye, I don't want you anymore, but it can come as your child. And then how are you going to say, okay, I don't want, yeah, well, we still can, but it's harder, right? To say, okay, I don't want you anymore. So you are kind of more forced to have a relationship with that spirit, because you do have things to be fixed. And that's no way to change that, right? So always thinking, okay, let's take the chance in this life to make it different. And then in a future life, I can have a better situation, or the situation I dream for. Believing is not faith. Faith is trust. And trust is a slow and gradual building of a relationship. I found this sentence very interesting, because we can apply that for everything. I mean, for you to trust on a friend, you really need to slowly know that person and build a relationship with that. And that is the same thing with God. For you to tell with our heart that really trust in God, you need to build that relationship. Otherwise, in the first little problem we have, we're going to blame God and say, oh, where's God that I'm facing this challenge and now I'm by myself here and he forgot about me? It's because you really do not build that strong faith. And most of us are in this process. So try to think about your relationship with God. And Spiritism is a great tool to help you to build that relationship. No one achieves success and progress without some kind of pain and learning. So we all need that, because the stage of evolution we cannot get things without pain. It's part of the process. It's part of the learning. No one can get a grade 10 in a test if you don't stop at least a few minutes reading and studying. You cannot get any success if you don't really dedicate it to that, right? Pray in silence and trust in God, waiting for the divine providence, because God has roads where the world has no pathways. Sometimes for our simple eyes, we don't see a solution, but God has the solution for you. If you really build that strong relationship with Him and trust on that, He will show you. This is why the storm can roar at night, but there are no forces on earth that prevent the arrival of a new day. So regardless what happened, the sun will rise the next day all the time. And we can kind of translate that to our own lives. Regardless what you are facing, something is gonna turn, and you're gonna get you're gonna get a new opportunity to kind of restart. So always think about that and bring the Spiritism to your heart. Always trust. So I think that is my last slide. So I try to tell people as well that by having the understanding of Spiritism, it's kind of help you to see the world with different eyes, as I was saying. And the best way to do that, try to use that to really help you, because our tendency is always to look to the mistakes, always to look to our neighbor. And when I say neighbor, that could be your partner, your mother-in-law, your brother, sister, we always try to see the defect of those person. We have a hard time to see the essence of that person, the goodness that that person have inside them. And Spiritism come and tells us that all those defects that we see, those are all temporarily. Those are all will pass. When that person pass away and life goes on, what he or she will carry is the essence, is the goodness, is the good things that he or she was able to develop inside us. And that is true with our neighbor and is true with ourselves. So once we change our eyes and see those person and see the essence inside them, it really helps us with all the relationship that we have with each other, because we have a hard time to see the goodness in the others, right? So always trust. Do not lose your faith in the shadows of the world. Though your feet are bleeding, go forward. Lifting it up by the heavenly light above yourself. Believe and battle. Be strong in goodness and wait patiently. Everything passes. And that was nice message from Emmanuel. This message here is from a Spirit of May, but Emmanuel said that quite frequently to Chico, right? Don't worry, that will pass. And that is true for the good, for the happy moments of your life, and from the sad moments of your life. Remember that too. When you are having a very nice moment, think about it, that will not last forever. So enjoy it, but that will also pass, because we are in the learning process. Our life is not only full of joy. We are not there yet. Everything passes and everything is renewed on earth. But what comes from heaven will remain. So the essence will always remain. Of all the unhappy people, the most unhappy are those who have lost confidence in God and in themselves, because the greatest misfortune is to suffer deprivation of faith and continue living. And I found so strong this sentence and so true. And sometimes I tell myself, and sometimes I think, especially when I'm facing a difficult situation, I thank God by having faith and by having something to believe, because I cannot imagine how people face challenges in life without believing in anything, in nothing, like believing in nothing, right? So it is the greatest misfortune for sure. Elevate your thought and keep walking. Fight and serve, learn and progress. The dawn shines beyond the night. Today it is possible that the storm would crush your heart and torment your dreams, stinging you with grief or threaten you with death. Do not forget, however, that tomorrow will be another day. So tomorrow is always another opportunity. Tomorrow is always another chance. So remember that, and I hope and I pray that the Spiritism can be the tool that all of you here need to do the another step and to face the challenge you're having in life. I have my own, and I'm sure each of you here have your own history, your own challenges. If you kind of stop for a minute and reflect on all your life, I'm sure that you're going to be able to see many great moments. It's just because we tend to focus only in the pain that you are suffering right now. But thinking about previous pain that you suffered and the tomorrow that came after that gives you a few moments of joy. And then obviously another pain. And I'm sure that will happen with me, will happen with you, will happen with all of us, because that's the moment we are having in life right now. But what I can tell is, by my own experience, that Spiritism really helped me providing that consolation in the hardest moments that I had. And I'm grateful for that, and I hope you all have the same opportunity to bring Spiritism to you, and kind of not only to you, by your own example and actions, kind of spread that to the others and help others to face challenges in life the same way. And with the certainty that we all gonna meet together at the top of the mountain, regardless of which pathway we decide in our trial, but we always get there. And God be with all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joyce, for this very enlightening lecture. Do we have questions from somebody here? Do we have questions from someone online? No? I do have one. I have a comment and a question. Comment that you mentioned that failure is not the end. I think it's very nice. One day we were working with Marcos Giclay, and he said like fail should be an acronym for first attempt in learning, right? That's a very good way to try to dissociate from real failure. And the other thing that I wanted to ask is, so we had the Wednesday study group this Wednesday, and we were reading, I think it was like, what is a good spiritist or something like that. It was one of the questions in the Spirits book, and the answer is like a 3-page long answer, right? So it's really, really hard to get there. And do we have to do all that? And that's another, so here we have even more. So do we have to do all of that at the same time, or do we have to do something different? What is the best way to do all of that?
Sure. So coming back to the failure comment, another thing that I always try to tell myself is remember the example of Thomas Edison when he was creating the lamp, right? The light. People keep kind of asking them, are you sure you're going to continue to try and try and try? He tried thousands and thousands of times. And then said, of course, because now I know a way that will not succeed, a way not to do a lamp. Every time, every fail for him was not considered as a fail, was considered as a learning, a way not to get there. So if you see that in our life, like every situation that you consider as a fail, you see, no, this was not a fail. Now I learned a way not to do like that thing. So it's a very important and kind of help us to move forward. So coming back to your question, yeah, I don't think obviously, especially in our situation, that we need to fulfill all those. It's not like a checklist that say, okay, for me to consider myself a spiritism, I need to check this. Oh no, I cannot check more than half of this, so I'm not a spiritist. So we are still like a child. So be easy with yourself and know that we are in the process of learning. If you are able to do one item of that in this life, I would consider yourself as a successful person, because we all know that life is eternal. You are immortal beings. We are immortal spirit, and we're gonna learn every time, every step. So give yourself that consolation that every day you're going to receive another opportunity, and you are in that process. I think the important thing is always to have that list in your mind and do the best to achieve that, but knowing that we are not there yet. So it will be too hard on you to think that in one life, in like 90 years, let's say, an average, most of us will not get there anyways, you will be able to get all those. So go slowly, but keep going. I think that is the most important thing.
That's very good. So no questions?
Hi there, my name is Mark.
Mark.
I just wanted to know, in those hard moments of our life,
No.
very down, very low vibrational state of mind, is there a technique to dissolve that in instinct? Or do we wait in time and then do our
Repeat the question.
for example?
So our friend is asking about when we are facing a difficult situation and with those dark thoughts, is there any techniques, anything that we can do to help us to overcome that, or we need to be patient and wait for some time? We will need some time, yes, but there are things that we can do. And one of the things that I found most powerful is your meditation and prayer. Try to learn that. Try to stop in a moment in a peaceful place. Can be your house, can be whatever you like, or in a park, or somewhere you like to be, and try to build that relationship with God that I mentioned. And the way to do that, for me, I think the one strong way to do that is through meditation and pray, because that will kind of help your mind to set up and kind of reset and kind of do different thoughts, because it's easy to involve yourself in that darkness, and that can grow more and more and more. But remember also that if someone is having such a hard time to have that relationship with God and to really reset their mind, sometimes they need help too. We need to think about that too. Like major depression, those type of things, they do need help. Those persons are not able by themselves. So when I say help, I mean professional help and even medication sometimes. We need to have that in mind too. That is not a miracle. Okay, some people need that, but I think meditation and pray are the best key. And if we put ourselves in a daily routine of praying, especially at the moment, I would say that the moment that you go to bed are the best moment, because you can reflect about your day and what you've done. If you do that every day, even the good days, you can kind of gonna reflect what I can do different. There's always situation that you can do different next time that can be better, and that can also put you in a constant mode of seeing the world in a different way. And always try to put yourself in a different situation that's going to allow you to see the world in a different way, and not only driven by your own selfishness. Because that's the problem, right? We always allow our selfishness to driven everything, including our thoughts, and then we tend to see ourselves as a victim all the time. So if you kind of open our mind and see the pain that the others are suffering too, that will help you to understand why your co-worker did that to you, and it will be easier for you to forgive instead of just blaming him. So those kind of things. I think meditation is the best key.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to add one thing. I think Joyce is absolutely right. Like meditation and prayer, those are techniques you can always employ, and they're very helpful. But you know, there's a factor of action that we need to keep in mind too, because I know Shikshravir has a great example of that. When you know, I think most of us know the story, but I'll just summarize it. When his neighbor ended up killing. Oh yeah, okay. I'm gonna. Sorry, man. People say I talk too much. Okay, so I know his neighbor once killed his dog, right? And you know, she thought the dog was not doing well, and she thought she was helping him because he was so busy. And then she said, you know, I'm gonna, you know, she decided to kill his dog. So, you know, and he loved his dog so much. So he was in a very difficult situation. He was obviously not happy. He was starting to develop some negative thoughts against the neighbor that was affecting. Oh, he was praying. Like, think about Chico. Like, obviously he was praying and meditating. He was doing all that, but it was not enough, right? And it's because there's a limit to the energy that we can evolve ourselves during a meditative prayer, for example, versus an action. So what his mentor told him, like Emmanuel told him, like, you know, find out what she likes the most, what she wants the most, the things that will make her most happy, and do it for her. So he went there and did it. He figured out, he worked extra hours, and he ended up buying like a sewing machine for her, and she, you know, he gave her as a gift. Now, see, that's the action. So the action of love, which is called charity too, is actually really what's wipe out that huge cloud of negative thoughts that we generate ourselves. So there's a limit to a point that we can meditate and pray and ask for help, but there's a point where you're so disconnected from God because of your own shield of negative thoughts around you, that if you're not active, it's going to be very hard for you to get out of the situation. So that's what I tell everyone that talks to me sometimes in the fraternal assistance, and you know, sometimes in work, and people come talk to me for help. I always tell the same thing. So listen, what good can you do in the situation you are right now? Because I'll give you another example. So I was reading stories about people that were actually during the earthquake in Haiti. And they were telling me the most devastating stories you could possibly imagine. right? There's no one, I can't even think of what it feels like being in a place where everything is knocked down to the ground, right? And people are just dead everywhere. Well, they found comfort, and it's very common in tragedies. You find comfort by being like completely desperate and lacking everything in the world, you can still help. So they helped. The ones that are far worse than they are. So in tragedy, we see that quite often, but we can see that in our daily life. So my question to everyone is, what can you do, actually, physically do, to get, things done? I know, parents have eyes everywhere. So, just get out there and do something positive. Build up the good energies around you by just immersing yourself in the action of doing so. Get out of the shell of meditation sometimes. I pray and do all that, but sometimes you need to say, listen, wait a minute, I can actually help people. I can do better than this, right? And I think that will be like even yourself, like even someone, it doesn't mean that you need to find like someone out there that needs a car and buy them a car. Like that's not what it means, but just being a nicer person sometimes helps. Saying hi to someone that you never ever thought about saying hi. The energy that person sends back to you will actually wipe out the negativity that surrounds yourself. Is the problem related to your family, to your mother, right? Forgive, accept, reach out, talk, right? That will wipe out the energy that you build yourself, right? The prayer will give you the fuel to do so, but in the end, it's always the free will. Anyways, I'll give another lecture here.
But that is a very good point.
Yeah.
Action.
Do you have a follow-up question, or we're good?
I think I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay. So just adding to both points, we do also offer the fraternal meetings or fraternal assistance every Wednesday. We will probably start on Sundays too after the lecture, but that will be later on. If anybody here will ever need assistance, we'll have people here to help. I'll talk about it later on. But I guess now, if we don't have any other question, we'll close for the passes, and we thank everybody watching us through the internet, and see you next Sunday.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.